Okay, we're recording.
Wonderful. Welcome all. Thanks for joining us today. You joined for a bit of an update, an introduction to the Digital Data and Technology Directorate here at SCW, just as part of the graduate scheme events that we're putting on. So lovely to see you all here. Lovely to see so much interest in the world of digital data and technology. Very exciting, certainly for me. As you can see from what I'm sharing on the screen, my name is Michael Knight. My role at SCW is I'm the Chief Technology Officer. So fairly large team at SCW. So team of just under 600 colleagues, working across a huge number of different projects, products, services that we deliver. So today, I hope that I will give you a little bit of a flavour for what digital data and technology is, what some of the things we're involved in, and the kind of opportunities that might be available. I will try my best to leave some time for questions at the end. More than happy to answer any questions. They're normally the most insightful bits of these kind of events. So I will leave some time at the end for those. But absolutely wonderful to have you all here with us today. I'm going to start fairly promptly and get the show on the road rather than wait for folks to join, but there will be kind of people joining, I'm sure, as things go. But if it's okay, we'll keep questions for the end. I'll rattle through the things that I'm keen to make sure that I share and to kind of make sure everyone's got that information, and then we can go into questions, if that's all right. I'll move us on. So we talk about sorry, I'm just going to pop mute there. So what is digital data and technology anyway? That's a really good question, isn't it? So I'll kind of take you through and just give you a really high level kind of summary of what digital data and technology is to us at SCW. So we see this term digital quite a lot. And there's lots of different definitions for it, and I think the one that for me is the most favorite one is really where it describes the kind of the culture, processes, business models and technology that are all put in place to respond to kind of the opportunities that come from the era of the internet. So if you go back in time and you think about how people used to work with their bank, where they would have a checkbook or a bank book, and they would go into an actual physical building. Now we're doing all of that via an app, via a website, and so what those organizations have had to do, they've had to reimagine how everything works in the background to be able to support all of those different digital channels, so their app, their website. So a really huge change to everything that kind of supports that service. So if it's a service, if I want to check my bank balance, moving that from a service where you might physically go in or where you would go to a cash point to a service that can be fulfilled by an online channel through an app, through a website. Lots of change required to that, lots of design work that goes into that. So you may have heard of terminology like UX, user-centered design, human-centered design, UI design, lots of different things kind of in that space. So and lots of effort goes into making these really simple and intuitive digital services. So certainly if you've seen things on NHS.uk where there's that guidance, lots of things happen around there, which gets delivered by other organisations, but all of those models and ways of working are quite common now across health and care, and we do lots of work in that area, which I'll come on to some examples later on. From a data perspective, lots of information and data about different conditions, about patients on waiting lists and their needs and those kind of things, as well as about the kind of the conditions that we all have in across a population. So helping organisations that decide how money is spent on health and care services. So how can we be more proactive in healthcare? So how can we use that data to say, okay, well, if we invest our money into treating patients that have this condition, how do we get benefit from that? Is it more beneficial to spend our money in this way or in that way? As well as kind of keeping track on overall kind of performance of outcomes for patients. So a huge amount of work there in that kind of data, information and analytics space, and really what we're starting to see now is a real focus on the analytics side. So what I would describe as the what if. So we can take and create reports about things that have happened already. But what's really important if we look at how health and care is at the moment, we really want to understand, okay, well, if we change this, how will that make things better? So some of the analytical modelling is really coming to be prominent and really important. We're starting to use things like artificial intelligence to help out with that, to really make sure that we can be on the front foot and help the organisations that we work with to do that. So certainly the data world is a really data analytics intelligence is a really interesting world. Bit of feedback there. So yeah, and then from a technology perspective, we have an absolutely enormous technology team. So we support pretty much every GP practice from Minehead on the coast of Somerset, all of the way out to Margate on the Kent coast. So a really large number of organisations that we support there. So we provide really critical infrastructure. So that means we have really big teams providing support through our service desk for our desktop engineering, as well as lots of highly technical teams, lots of project teams, and lots of kind of management folk who will make sure that what is a really big machine continues to keep moving. So and then that's a really big part of why we have such a large digital data and technology team here at SCW. I'll take you on a little bit to kind of talk a little bit more about the numbers in a moment, but really just wanted to focus in on what's our focus, what are our priorities. So we've in terms of who we are, we actively compete with the private sector. So as a self-funding organisation, we have to bid for work. We have to make a compelling case for organisations to choose for SCW to provide services to them, and the way that we do that is the money that kind of comes out of that self-funding piece at the end, we reinvest it, and we reinvest it in a couple of ways. We reinvest it in trying new things out, so new technologies, new ways of doing things, making improvements, as well as investing in kind of people, skill sets, and ultimately what we want to get from that is providing really great services that benefit people, communities, populations. So we really hope that everything we do, because of the size of the team that we have, where we make that reinvestments and those improvements, we feel we can have a really big impact to people across the whole of the south of England and beyond. And our focus is in 3 areas. So our kind of first area is around the partnerships. So the way that we really make impact is by having close working partnerships with the organisations that pay us or commission us to provide services. So that's an absolute priority for us, and making sure we are focusing our time and our efforts in the right places that respond to those local challenges that the organisations that we work with have. We also have a real priority around our workforce. So how does it feel to work as part of the digital data and technology team? What are the career pathways for our people? How are we supporting folks to go on that journey? And how are we making sure that we're performing at our best? How are we putting our people out there in the wider kind of digital health family of people, and giving them that opportunity to really progress and move on in their careers and get some great opportunities. And then finally, there's that sustainability reality of making sure that from an ecological perspective and an environmental perspective, are we on top of making sure that we're doing the right things? We're a really large team, and being spread across a really big geography with lots of different places to get to, and the carbon footprint that comes from that is fairly large. So we're looking at things like, how do we use electronic vehicles, those kind of things, to be able to support that, as well as the general financial sustainability. So as I said, we're a self-funding organisation. We need to be able to make sure that we can we're still here in 5-10 years time, because we think what we do is really great. So that's just a bit around kind of who we are, what we do, and what the priorities are, and kind of really where this lands is in some of these kind of key numbers. So I mentioned that we have a really large technology team. So now we're working and supporting kind of over 45,000 devices and over 1,000 servers. Every 35 seconds we pick up the phone and help someone, or support them via another channel. We've supported 200,000 plus people to have online consultations through COVID, and we're supporting over 1,000 GP practices directly, and we also do things like national GP payment calculations, which are now pushing up beyond £1 billion worth of payments that we calculate as part of a collaborative with the other organisations that we work with on that piece of work. So really big impact stuff that this team does, and we're also really proactive in terms of how do we accredit ourselves against industry standards. So our service desk are accredited internationally. We have cybersecurity focus around things like Cyber Essentials Plus. So we're really keen that we get the credentials that really prove that we know what we're talking about, both as an organisation, as a team, but also as individuals. So we put a lot of effort into kind of developing our people as well, and making sure they've got the expertise and their skills continue to be relevant in what is an area that seems to move really quickly, and knowledge that you had yesterday quickly becomes out of date, as I'm starting to find out in my role. And I said I'd kind of mention some specific things that we've worked on that are really good examples of the work that we do. So in the digital space, we've done some work with NHS England on what we call the Leader programme. So this is the programme of work that is about learning from lives and deaths of people with learning disabilities, and where there may be a death that's occurred that may need some investigation. We've created the digital service for NHS England that allows people to report that and then takes it through an assessment process, so that we can make sure that the relevant lessons are learned from those kind of things. So really important, and real potential from that work that we do there to really proactively change people's lives as a result of the analysis that comes out of that work in that service. Through COVID-19, we had a real big hand in what we referred to as shielded patient list at the time. So in the very early part of COVID, nationally, there was a big push to work out, okay, well, when it comes to people that we determine as shielding and may therefore be eligible for different support, earlier vaccination, etc., identifying those relevant kind of shielded patients or vulnerable patients was something that we had a really big hand in nationally. So real big difference that we can make there. I mentioned earlier, our team are working to apply artificial intelligence techniques to really get on top of things like health inequalities, in terms of making sure that every patient that's within an area is getting an equal opportunity to be treated in the right way for the care that they need, and that we're kind of equitable in that way, as well as making sure that the investments into patient care are being made in the right places, and we're getting the outcomes that we really need from the money that gets spent. I touched earlier on the national GP payment calculations work that we do. Over £1.2 billion worth of calculations last financial year were done by the team. So you can imagine the joy of our GP colleagues when they get their funding as part of that scheme at the end of the year. But of course, that amount of money involved, lots of work goes on in the background to make sure that we're doing all of those calculations in an accurate way, so that GPs are getting paid correctly for the work that they do for their patients. And lots of that work there, it's responding to specific needs of patients. So making sure that babies are receiving vaccinations through the payment methodology, making sure that we can stand up services to support Ukrainian refugees when they come into the country, which has happened this year. So lots of really big impact stuff there for people and patients. And finally, we've done some really big mobilizations of IT support for GPs, which is absolutely not to be sniffed at. 'Cause a lot of work goes into that, and having really strong IT support, data support, all of those things is very important for these organisations, and that's a huge part in what we do as a team. So there are just some examples of practically what we do, the kinds of work that we get involved in across the team, that really kind of makes a difference. And I was asked to kind of share from my perspective what a typical day looks like. So I've kind of tried to summarize it in a handful of things. So I would say every day is a learning day, certainly for me. So one of the things I would say to anyone that's thinking of applying for digital data and technology role is don't assume that you need to be able to write code, because many, or probably most, people in the team can. It's a really diverse team, lots of different things. What everyone does need to have is to bring in an ability and a desire to learn. Technology, data analytics, all of these things, they move incredibly fast. So we always need to be open to learning new things as they change. And certainly that's something that I put a lot of time and effort into to make sure that I'm relatively up to date with what's happening in the world. And we expect that our kind of team do the same on a kind of day-to-day basis. Lots of collaborative work. There are lots of really specialist roles and people with skill sets that we need to bring together in order to deliver something great. So I talked about the GP payments program earlier. We need business analysts, we need project managers, we need developers, we need architects, we need all of the project support officers, we need service desk analysts. We need all of those people to come together as a team in order to deliver that one thing. So working together is absolutely key, and having those skills to be able to work with colleagues is incredibly important. Translation is probably an interesting one that I'll explain. So folks really depend on us to take something that is potentially relatively complex or technical and turn it into something that we can understand and we can apply and get some benefit from on a day-to-day basis. So certainly I spend a lot of time trying to kind of translate things that may be a bit technical or maybe highly technical and really try and present them in a way that's understandable and appropriate for the problem that we're trying to solve. So certainly a lot of that. Of course, I talked earlier about the kind of the size and scale of what we do and how big the team is and how many projects we have. Planning is a really big part of the work that we do. We need people in our project management office, our project managers, our program managers, our operational managers, and across the whole of the team to really plan their work, understand what they're working on today, what's coming next, and really keep on top of all of that demand that we have, because our services really are in demand. And finally, problem solving. You can have all the technical skills in the world, or you can have all the domain expertise in project management, which you could gain through this program. But you need the ability to think on your feet and really look at, okay, well, why might this be happening? Work with other people and try and understand why we've got to that situation and where we can go from here. So, problem solving in technology is is really key for sure, as well as all the other areas that I've touched on across digital data and technology. So that's kind of a fairly kind of quick summary, I think, of the kind of the world of digital data and technology. So I did say I would try and leave as much time as possible to give people opportunity to ask any questions. So I'm more than happy to open to questions if folks want to put their hands up or ask in the chat. That's absolutely fine. Michaela, I've just seen your question in the chat in terms of the requirements for the graduate scheme. I know I've got my colleague Hayley on the call, who's probably more familiar with that one. I've got a good idea, but I'm gonna let the expert handle that one for sure. So I don't know, Hayley, if you wanted to chip in on that one.
Hello, hi. So I did see your chat come up and I didn't know whether to save this till the end or to respond. So requirements would be maths and English grade C or above, and then a 2.2 degree, if that helps.
Yes, thank you. In any discipline, or it has to be a
yes, no, it doesn't have to be in technology or data. Yeah. No.
Cool.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Absolutely. I will come on to degree specialisms in a moment, because I think I've got some really great examples of how it's worked in our team in the past with some of the graduates that we've had. Chid, in terms of the prerequisites around data visualization tools, of course it's great if people have got those skills, but for us ultimately it's a graduate scheme. We're really focused on people that can kind of come in the team and can learn. So and I think I'll probably cover off Juliana and Solomon's questions with this. So I can give you a really good example of someone that joined us on the graduate scheme a few years ago. They came into the team with a psychology degree. They had and they came into a cybersecurity team, which is probably one of our more technical areas of the organisation, and they did absolutely fine. And so from my perspective, I've got absolutely no concerns or kind of preferences or preconceived ideas around a need for people to bring in a specific computer science degree or those kind of things, for example. So from that perspective, we are very open. We're very open to people who perhaps don't come from a kind of digital data and technology degree background. I know we've absolutely made a success of that with folks in the past, and so we're really focused on people with the that can come in and can learn and have got that kind of got the ability to learn. So so for me, that's how we would kind of approach that one. So probably fairly directly and answered your question there, Juliana. I think any specialism is fine. Doesn't have to be business management or technology. It's all good. And Solomon, prior experience in digital data and technology, no. I know, absolutely fine. I think there's lots of content that our grads have shared and top tips around how to make your graduate how to make your application for the graduate scheme. I would really recommend having a look at those, because they are incredibly insightful, and I know if you follow them, you will stand a really good chance to get through to the assessment centre stage. So which is in itself is a real achievement, because this is a very competitive graduate scheme from previous experience, and lots of really talented people. Priyash, in terms of programming languages, we've got a variety and a decent amount of kind of .NET, PHP, those kind of things. But as I said, no requirement for any specific technical skills. If you've got them and you come through that graduate route and you're in a good place, then we'll I know we'll look at how an assignment could work for that, but again, we absolutely don't have we don't have any kind of preconceived ideas around you must come with these skills. As I said earlier, it is a graduate scheme, so we're really there to invest in people that have got the ability to learn and develop. Youngling, moving to other service lines, absolutely. I've had someone in my team that's moved into one of the other teams in the organisation, and we've seen a few other grads do the same as well. So from my perspective, I'm massively supportive of people moving to different parts of the organisation. I would much rather support people to develop into roles that are still within the organisation rather than into roles outside of the organisation. So absolutely, we're really supportive of people's development, whether it be within the service line that they join or into another service line. So we do see movement between directorates as people kind of push on in their career at SCW. So absolutely, we see that happen, and that's great. In terms of timelines and where to apply, I don't know if we can maybe just send those through after, in terms of this. Here's the link to apply, these are the timelines. We'll send those out as a bit of an information pack after. I don't know if you've got the date off the top of your head, Hayley, that we could just focus people's minds to the timescales.
I haven't, not off the top of my head.
Okay,
Christiana as well has also asked about applying separately, because she's already applied for the graduate management SCW scheme. So this is a separate scheme, so it would be a separate application for that one. Is there any way that we can access the presentation slides after the meeting, which we absolutely can send out the slides, can't you, Michael? That's fine to do that.
Yeah, happy to share the slides, and I think we're recording. We'll put
Yeah,
what we'll probably do. I think we'll put the recording on YouTube and send you all a link, so you can come back on that one. So Tiffany, wonderful. Tiffany's popping some really great
around the visa. Yeah.
Tiffany's putting some wonderful things there in the chat in terms of responses to those. So yeah, you should see there some of the answers to those things. So wonderful, some really great questions there, folks. Ibrahim, thank you. You've popped your hand up, so I'll do you want to come in there?
Yes, sure. I was gonna ask a few questions. So what I was gonna say is, how would you say the role has sort of evolved in the last few years? And also, I was gonna ask, are we only gonna be based like down south, or would we have like an opportunity to be able to like go up to like London or like up north or something like that?
So I think primarily I'll kind of take them in reverse order, and you'll probably have to correct me if I don't cover all of them. So I think primarily we're focused in the south of England in terms of our footprint. So I think that would probably be the preference from my perspective, mainly so that whilst we're all working in a remote kind of hybrid way, we don't insist that people spend a specified number of days in the office. It's really about kind of what people need to do to get the job done. But there is a real value in spending time in the office with colleagues and picking up knowledge from them. So primarily we'll be focused in kind of recruiting around that south area. We do have offices that kind of skirt around and are fairly close to London. So we've got an office in Surrey, an office in Reading. So they're both half an hour into London from those two offices. So yeah, so that's kind of the general locations. And I've seen another comment in the chat around West Midlands. I think probably closest we come north towards that part of the world is Oxfordshire. So hopefully that's kind of answered Muna's query in the chat as well. In terms of how things have changed, that's a really interesting question. I think as an organisation we've been on a real kind of evolution of what we do. Obviously through COVID, the needs of health and care have changed. So what we've seen happen operationally in the outside world and outside our organisation is waiting lists are growing. People are moving to do more remote consultations. there's more need to be strategic about how money is spent and have a real focus on a return, kind of from a day-to-day perspective on, okay, well, if we spend money on doing this type of operation, or make these decisions about focusing our spending on that thing, is really kind of, that's coming to the fore. So that, and by extension, we really have to support that from a digital data and technology perspective, either by providing services, platforms, data and analytics. So really our world is very much reflective of what's happening kind of operationally with the NHS that you'll see on the news. Lots of work around in a broader organisation around how do we help for recruitment, for for nurses and doctors and those kind of things as well. So we very much mirror that. I would say from a digital data and technology perspective, we've changed quite a bit around the way that we do things to really give as much benefit for what we can do, and that's proven to be really great for us. So I mentioned earlier, we've just taken on GPIT support in Kent and Sussex, and that's really been, from my perspective anyway, a result of the really strong reputation that we have and the work that we've been doing. So lots of evolutionary work with our team, because I think we're already on a great path, but also we're having to respond to those kind of changing needs of health and care kind of as they evolve. So a little bit of both in terms of how things have evolved for us, but certainly becoming a much larger team than we maybe have in the past, has come with its benefits and come with its challenges, as you would expect.
Right, cheers.
Okie doke. So I'm just trying to pick that. Would working with an ICB come as an advantage? I think in terms of hopefully the knowledge that you might have picked up, Michaela, in terms of working for an ICB, if you can reflect that in your application, your personal statement, and really apply that to how that helps you meet that person's specification that's on the ad, then absolutely, that could be. But no, certainly folks that are on the call that haven't worked for an NHS organisation, would really urge you to think about it. And even if you've only kind of primarily focused on the study for the past few years, really think about how you can apply your experience of study to your application. So you may not have done things in a work context, but actually if you've done things in a study context, they're just as valid and just as valuable. So please don't forget those, because it's certainly, I've seen some really impressive applications where folks have been able to reflect on what's happened in their study and really apply it and use that to demonstrate how they can meet our requirements of the grad scheme. Cool, okie doke. Couple of questions around so visa sponsorship is always a slightly interesting one. So effectively what we have to do on that one is be able to make a case to the Home Office to do sponsorship. Generally can be more challenging to do with graduate schemes, but no, not I don't know if we have a specific position on that one. I know we've got a couple of colleagues on the course. So Tiffany, I know if you're going to jump in on that one.
Yeah, more than happy to. Yes, the criteria is that someone will have a right to work in the UK at the moment. So for some people, that might mean that they're on a graduate visa, where they will have 2 years when the scheme starts if they finish their course in sort of the summer. That's fine. And then obviously this is a permanent contract. So towards the end of your graduate visa, we would then look at whether you would have the criteria to go onto a skilled worker visa. Obviously, I can't say at this time whether it would be the same situation in 2 years' time, but at the moment, people that are coming into our roles, in project management roles and things like that, then it does work on the point system and we can look at sponsorship. So we would be having conversations with people about 3 to 6 months before the end to try and get things in place from that front. But what we can't do at the moment is sponsor initially because of the graduate scheme. So we do need you to have a right of work to start. But I'm more than happy to kind of clarify when we send all of the slides across to everyone about right to work a little bit more, if that's helpful.
Wonderful, thank you, Tiffany. Much more eloquently put than I would have been able to. Thank you very much. That was awesome. Watson, entry requirements for different service lines. No, I think the requirements are the same. So effectively, the process that we go through as part of the scheme is we kind of assess everyone as an individual cohort, and then we look at it from there to identify how do we how does that play out in terms of the most appropriate assignment for the folks that are coming out as the real kind of top candidates from the process. So that's generally how it's worked in previous years. I assume it will continue in that vein. I think we ask for your general interest in terms of what service line you might be interested in. And sometimes as folks go through the process and get towards the end, then they might say, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't realise about X, I might be interested in that as well. So I think it would be good if you can kind of identify potential interests, but we'll have conversations with folks around how we might kind of assign people, and it might be one of those where if you're in a position where you've got an opportunity to pick up a graduate role, it might not necessarily be in the area that was your absolute preference, but as we touched on earlier, there's always opportunity to kind of to get in, get some experience, and move around as your career develops. So yeah, I think so. Hopefully not too much of a problem on that one.
I think there was a question as well about competition. Someone asked a question. I hope you don't mind me interrupting, Michael.
No worries.
Just to say on that front, we've always had quite a lot of candidates apply for our scheme, but it's very much done in sort of processes. So we will be shortlisting once the applications close in February. We'll then be shortlisting. So we shortlist generally about 70 candidates. And then we'll have interviews from that stage, and then from that stage we then whittle down to kind of assessment centre and so forth. So we will talk you through all of that stage and so forth. And we've got we'll share with you the timeline. So once we close their applications, we hope to kind of do our shortlisting within a 2-week period. So the interviews are looking like to be sort of scheduled for March, and then assessment days in April. Last year we worked by May, but that was kind of in the middle of exam season for some people that were still in their degree process. So hopefully that works better for everyone, but we will give some flexibility on dates and so forth as well. So hopefully that's helpful. But we've got 13 positions in total that we're looking to recruit for.
Wonderful. Thank you. Natalie, question in terms of how many days you required in the office. So I think I touched on earlier, our core offices are all in the south. So in terms of the kind of the formal base that folks would have, it would be one of those offices. But we aren't highly specific around you must be in this many days a week. That's not how we do things. If you don't need to be in at all, then you don't need to be in at all. If you need to be in 5 days, you need to be in 5 days. So I think if you're if you're looking at applying for the scheme, there is an amount of events that we do for our graduates to support their development, where it is all those events are inevitably going to be in the south, and you'd need to be there for those for sure. So yeah, that's the view of things. So it's worth having a bit of a think about. So I know that what's tended to happen, particularly through COVID, where we've had folks that have applied from outside of our geography, and eventually through as COVID's moved on, they have kind of relocated to be within the footprint. In terms of what office, Jade, absolutely. I think we're pretty flexible on offices. What we tend to try and do is focus them around some of our kind of core offices where we have most people, and therefore there's the most support available from colleagues around. We've got offices kind of all across the south now, so we've got a reasonable degree of flexibility within that kind of south of England geography. Sylvia, absolutely. If you've got an interest in a particular service line, I know, but when it all kind of lands, it's deemed that you might be more appropriate for another service line, then absolutely. We don't have separate requirements for different service lines though, so it's all we're kind of assessing really against that same standard across all of those teams. So yeah, we're really consistent with how we do that. So I think the service line is we kind of tend to treat it more as a preference thing, and working out how we kind of how we make sure we get the right split of people across different teams. But yeah, there aren't different requirements explicitly between teams, and we assess it on a very kind of standard and kind of fairly generic way, because we know that once folks join us, we'll spend time, we'll invest in them in terms of qualifications, time, mentoring to help them to get where they need to get to. So actually the skills that they might come in with, we think we've got a huge amount to offer once you've landed. So we're fairly relaxed about that one. Okie doke. Cool. Okie doke. I think we've probably covered most of the questions, but if anybody has a question that's unanswered, feel free to pop your hand up, and I'll make sure we get it answered before we come to a close. Wonderful. Oh, one hand. Perfect. Richard.
Hi, I might have missed it, but is there other meetings for the other service lines as well? But I'm not sure if I missed them earlier on or not.
We are going to do some other events. Tiffany.
Sorry, yes, I can pick up on this. What we will do, have you already applied, Richard?
Not yet, no.
Okay, all right. So we're looking at we've got one date set for workforce, and we're looking to set another date with transformation, which is a different service line. So what we'll do, because you're all registered on Eventbrite, we've got all of your email contact details. So we'll send a blind copied email so that you don't all see one another's emails, with all of the upcoming dates that you've got that. We'll also host it. We'll advertise that on our website as well under the SCW graduate scheme. But the way that all of the applicants that have already applied as well, we will post that through the track application process, that you've got those dates in mind, and that you can obviously come onto them, and they'll also be recorded as well.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. I think there might be another hand whilst I was speaking as well.
Wonderful. Okie doke. Perfect. Is that Tolly Lope?
Yeah, hi. Okay, so I was gonna ask a question as regards the application. So there was a link that was sent on the group, and immediately I clicked on it, I figured I had actually applied for it. I didn't really know it was much of all this, like I didn't really know it was I think I answered most of the question based on the experience I have, but not in the tech line or anything. So I really don't know. So when I clicked on it, I figured I had actually submitted since 1st of January. But it looks to me like is it an entry-level job, and would I, because seeing the personal statement I wrote, I feel that it is quite different from what I'm learning right now. It is relatable, yes, based on the roles I've actually done before. But then, is that not going to be a prerequisite to screening and all?
No. So the way that we effectively how we use people's preference in terms of what what service line they'd like to work in, is we absolutely use it as a preference. We don't use it as a means to assess people for that particular service line. So we assess everyone in exactly the same way for the graduate scheme. So everyone comes in, they're effectively on the same job description, and we assess them against that job description, which is a fairly generic one that you would have seen on the website. So what we'll tend to do there is we'll assess it against a fairly generic kind of set of things. So so you absolutely don't have to apply digital data and technology examples to it if you're interested in digital data and technology as a preference. So absolutely just go with, really focus on, in terms of application, is the skills and capabilities that we've put on there on the advert, because that is what we'll assess them against first and foremost. In terms of how we use people's preferences, what we tend to see is we will ask it at kind of first interview what services you're interested in, and we kind of keep a hold of those from there as we move on in the process. So that's how we kind of take that on, board. And I think we do. I think we might. That's our cover all, isn't it? I think we ask for something in the advert as well, Tiffany, which you just put in the chat. So we cover it off about a couple of ways there, but yeah, it's I think Tiffany just shared something useful in the chat as well. But yeah, really in terms of the specialism, we see it as, well, it's a preference of what your assignment might be, rather than a change in the criteria we'll assess you against. Yeah, for all the reasons that you mentioned at the top. Cool.
All right then. Yeah, thank you.
Hope that's useful. So I think we picked up the chat, we picked up the hands, so I think that's covered us. Really appreciate folks giving up the time and to listen to me witter on about a team. And I would really love to see some applications from you folks, whether they're for digital data and technology or another area. And I really would encourage you to. It's a great place to work. So so good luck with your application, and hopefully I'll meet some of you soon when you come and work for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ibrahim. I don't know if I think I might have missed your hand up, or
No,
you popped
I'm
it up
sorry.
after the end.
I think I was gonna wait after the end. I just wanted to confirm, because I already did my application already, but
Yeah.
I just looked at the chat now, and she said you have to like do 4 different personal statements, but I only did 1 during my application, so I don't know if that's like gonna be a problem or not.
Well, I will defer to the experts on this one. I don't know. I think Tiffany's still with us. I don't know, Tiffany, if you can pick that one up.
Yeah, of course. What I can do is we won't know who you are because you'll have an applicant number.
Yeah.
Right, so you might know your applicant number. I don't know if you see that from your side. I guess I would suggest that you get in touch with our recruitment team, and you ask if there's any way to. What you could do is maybe withdraw from that application and then do a new application if you felt that it was missing something that you could kind of add value to. So what I can do is I can take that away with me and just check with our recruitment team what we might be able to do on that front, and then come back to you, Abraham.
No worries, that's fine. Sure.
If that's okay, I'm just taking a note of your surname so that I can I'll check with them tomorrow and then come back to you.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. I tried to make it quite clear in the advert, but what we can't do in track is we can't add it again in track. So obviously you have to have a look at the advert. So yeah, if we can get that opened up again for you, then we will try and do that. So you can add some further content to that to strengthen your application. I would say put in a supporting statement, but I won't be able to marry up your name with your code or anything like that because it's all got to be very anonymous. So yeah, thank you.
No worries.
Awesome. Okay, doke. Perfect.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Nice one. Thank you.
So would I then get an email? Just to be confirmed, I would get an email?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you. I'll send you an email tomorrow. Probably first thing in the morning. Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Thanks, Tiffany. We appreciate your help on that one.
No problem at all.
All right.